Welcome to Future Role Model, a podcast that praises the unconventional and redefines what it means to be a role model. I am live in Las Vegas with Jozalyn Sharp today.
Hello, I'm here.
We have a show starting in like an hour and 15 minutes or so. And I'm excited because I've heard so many wonderful things about Jozalyn. We haven't hung out yet.
Like the nicest thing to hear. It really, because I constantly am convinced everyone hates me.
Dude, I know that.
So many demons in my brain. That's really nice. I appreciate that. And I appreciate you hitting me up too, especially because I'm really awkward. Like, I don't know if you noticed, but I just like don't know how to have booking conversations when I want to be specific. I'm okay. Like, I don't know. I don't know how to be graceful.
You actually did it really good.
Oh,
You were like so kind about everything.
Oh, yay.
I'm used to people in Los Angeles that are like, okay, there's a difference between knowing your value, which you do. You know how much you have to work and how much you have to earn in order to like survive here.
Right.
There's a lot of people in LA that think their value is much higher than it actually is.
Yeah.
And I obviously would never name names, but certain people be walking around expecting.
No, that's in Vegas too. It happens out here
you're
too.
just like, dude, what are you like? Even with this show, for example, because like I'm busy already, and so I started this show. And I fly out every week. And when I first started the show, I was getting hit up by certain comics, and they were like, "I'll send you a video." I'm like, "Don't send me a video. So-and-so said you're awesome. Just come do the show." Like,
yeah.
I'm like, I'm not, because in LA too, there's a lot of like 1 or 2 year old comedians. I mean, as far as age and stand up, obviously not.
Yeah. Just children prodigies all over Las. That's what happens when you don't vaccinate your kids. They get really good at stand up.
Fucking mouthy mother. Oh my God, I love my mind sometimes. But they'll like start these rooms. My friend is over there laughing. They'll request you to send in like an X amount of tape, and I'm like, you don't even know how to watch a tape properly.
No,
yet. Like you don't even know how to make a tape.
Well, here's my thing. This has always been my thing about like getting booked. Like, if you work really hard and you're really honest with yourself, and you watch tape of yourself, and you know if you're funny or not. You can hear the audience. And
you would hope you do.
Yeah. Okay.
You'd be surprised.
To be fair, there's some people who don't.
Yeah.
But my point is that I feel like if you just work hard and you are nice to people, like bookings come. Like,
yeah,
that's just really how it is. Like, it sounds dumb, and like I'm like, if you do the right thing, the universe will take care of you. But that's kind of how it works.
It's kind of true. I mean, I think people will weed out. I mean, at least it starts to happen in the scene. You know, I always just hope when I run into somebody and they're like, "Oh, I haven't seen you in forever," or "I barely know you," but they're like, "Everybody likes you." I mean, that's not the case. Trust me, not everybody likes me. But you know what I mean?
Samesies for me.
But like, but you hope that at least somebody that you respect said to somebody that they like.
Totally.
I don't really care if people I don't know don't like me, because like whatever. But at least I'd hope if I met somebody and worked with them, they'd be like, she doesn't suck and she doesn't,
I have a lot of followers on TikTok, and according to my comments, there's about 1,000 11-year-old boys who hate me.
No, and that's the problem with social media. In like some bookers.
An 11-year-old boy commented, "My dishwasher won't shut up" on one of my videos. Like, why do you have the misogyny of a 50-year-old man? You're 11.
Who are you?
The rest of his TikToks are like him playing Fortnite.
What the fuck? It's such a weird world that we live in, because a lot of people do value your followers. Like, I don't have the most massive following
Me either,
ever, but I have a okay one, but it's all 25 to 45 year olds.
Right.
Like, they're not kids. And that's why I have a nice, pleasant experience on Instagram so far, because children haven't discovered me yet. Well, when they do, I'm fucked.
They haven't found me on. A few of them have come over. One of them DM'd me on Instagram to let me know that the kings of TikTok will not be taken down. And I didn't know what that meant at all. But
is that like a new gang?
I think it's like his gang of like guys that like take down feminist TikTokers.
All right.
This is all because, by the way, I just made a TikTok about how like women using sexual, like there's like audios and songs on there that people dance to that are really sexual, and there's women that will get mad.
It's a music app, right? It's like
but it's like Instagram stories only.
Oh, okay.
And you can talk, you can dance, you can, act things out, whatever you want to do. People make whole storylines with characters. It's very creative and interesting.
Yeah.
But there's young children that hate you. I just was like upset because there was a lady who was saying that if you use sexual songs when you're a woman, then do you think that's very empowering? She was being very misogynistic about her views of what's empowering.
Yeah.
And I just kind of ranted about it's a minute long. So 59 seconds of me ranting about how female empowerment is for us to decide what is empowering and all that. And literally I woke up and there was 539 comments. Half of which were positive, half of which were like women being like, yes, queen, like all that stuff. And the other half is literally, and then you can duet. So on TikTok, you can duet where you like play someone's video next to your video. And there was 12 to 15-year-old boys duetting me talking where they're sleeping in their video.
Oh
and this happened like at least a dozen times.
I mean, it's kind of funny.
It's hilarious, actually. I think it's hysterical.
Who
and
came up with that?
I know, but it's not an original burn because they obviously are all doing it.
Right.
But very funny. It makes me laugh every time.
Like if that was my son, I'd look at like if I was like checking out on my children's social media, I'd be like, okay, well, you're an asshole, but this is kind of...
At least you're clever.
At least you're clever. I'll give you that.
So when they find my Instagram, I'm sure it'll be much worse.
Oh my gosh. I haven't gotten on the Tic Tac craze yet. Tic Tac?
It's Tic Tac. It's breath mints. It's a breath mint social app. No.
My breath smells like shit it has for like 10 years.
Me too. I smoked too much weed. I always smell like an ashy bowl.
Like an ashy lawn.
Yeah.
I think that's the difference. I quit smoking cigarettes 8 years ago.
Good for you. I just quit last year.
Oh my gosh. Well, recently, I don't know what it is. Like, I don't think that I'm stressed out, but I must be because I started to like when I'm drunk, I'll just like bum like 7 in a night, which is totally being a smoker again.
Yeah. You know how that starts again.
I know.
That's exactly how I started. I quit for a year and then I started bumming when I was drunk and then I started again.
Yep.
And then I quit last year finally again, last July.
Those fucking things.
They're the worst.
And this is the problem. I was such an asshole about it for a while because I had friends that were trying to quit and I was like, I just did cold turkey and I'm fine. And now it's like coming back to bite me in the ass. You know, it's like the cigarettes have formed their own union and they're trying
now
to
you're just going to be a hypocrite to everyone.
Exactly.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
But you like to smoke weed?
I fucking love smoking weed. It's like, well, I have arthritis, so I have the excuse. But here's the thing. Don't let anyone bullshit you and like tell you that they're smoking weed for their pain because there's minimal pain relief from smoking it. You need to eat it to get most of the pain relief stuff. So I do eat a lot of it, but I also enjoy smoking it. I have anxiety disorder, so it helps me like
chill out.
Yeah, my brain feels like it's going a million miles per minute. When I smoke weed, it kind of like I can focus on one channel at a time.
Yeah, I hear that from a lot of friends. I smoked weed a lot in high school, like shitty weed.
Oh yeah.
And as soon as weed got good,
that's when you stopped.
I was like, I can't do this. It's too fucking good. But what I do suddenly love out of nowhere is microdosing mushrooms.
Dude, my husband loves mushrooms.
Amazing.
And has been telling me that I need to do them forever because I struggle with anxiety and depression.
Yeah.
And everyone says that like a lot of my friends, in fact, with anxiety have started microdosing and said that it made a huge difference for them.
I've heard that too. And like my grandma is my best friend. I talk about her in my stand-up all the time. But
Me too.
Really?
Well, my grandma, I don't have as many jokes about her anymore. I had her in my old hour, but she's like my bestie. I'm going to go have dinner with her tomorrow.
Me too. Yeah.
I love my grandma.
Same with my friend Eddie, who's sitting right over there. He's like, his grandma's coming in next weekend and we're like hanging out with her.
GMOs are the best, dude.
Yeah.
GMOs are where it's at.
My grandma's my homie. And so I actually had her on my podcast a couple episodes ago. We shot in Chicago. She tours with me sometimes.
That's amazing.
So we shot 2 episodes in Chicago and I got her whole life story on my podcast, which was fucking awesome.
Like how many people get to do that?
It was like the coolest feedback I've gotten. And I've had like, I have all sorts of amazing guests, but it was cool that people kind of respected just like, all right, she's not a comedian. She's not a famous person, but like her story is respectable.
No, I'm very boring compared to my grandma. When she tells me about her life, I'm like,
I know, me too. I'm like, I've done.
Like she worked in a bomb factory when she was a teenager.
Bomb factory?
I worked at a coffee shop.
I know. I'm like, I made donuts. Fostel's Bakery. I smelled like shit.
Yeah,
like
she dropped out of high school to work in a bomb factory to help support her family.
Dang.
Yeah.
Well, and my grandma recently, because there's like, you know how there's different medical crazes. Like when we were kids, it was like tonsils out, everybody tonsils out, then no tonsils out ever. And then tonsils out again. Cause I didn't have mine out until college. it's like it's doing the same with opiates and other types of drugs like that are medically prescribed.
Interesting.
So she's been on lorazepam for like 20 years, probably longer.
Oh, wow.
And all of a sudden her doctor, who's a young doctor, is like making her
wean off
of it. And it's killing her because she's like, her anxiety's through the roof and she doesn't feel like she has.
Right.
And somebody was like, she should microdose mushrooms. And I was like, that is a very smart idea. I just have to go to Mexico and pick up some like drugs for my grandma and send them to like.
Have you pitched this idea of microdosing to grandma yet?
No, I haven't. But I was like, that would probably make her like way happier.
Listen, I feel like if you're retired and you don't have a job, like just do the drugs, man. Try it.
Who gives a shit?
Right?
Like I
don't know, man. Life is short.
Life is short.
We could get sucked into the space-time continuum tomorrow. We don't know what's going on in other universes.
It seems like it's coming. I mean, we were just in LA. We were just seeing videos of all our friends' houses like burning to the ground. It looks like hell on
yeah.
And I'm like, oh, things are definitely blowing up. Like everything.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we haven't taken care of of where we're at very well.
So you're from Las Vegas, yeah?
Well, I was born in Las Vegas, but I was raised in rural Nevada. I was raised in a town called Fallon, Nevada. It's 7 hours north of here.
Okay. I just spent some time in Rachel, which is probably halfway between here and there.
Rachel, never heard of it.
Rachel's by Area 51.
Okay, yeah, so that's a little south. I know anything like Tonopah and north. That's like because Nevada's a big state.
It's huge, and I haven't been to any parts of it, but now Rachel and Las Vegas, so I don't really know where anything else is in Nevada.
Yeah, so Reno, you know where Reno is.
Yeah, I know where Reno is.
60 miles east of that is where I grew up.
Oh, okay.
So about an hour east of Reno.
So way the fuck on the top of the state.
Way at the top of the state. It's called the Oasis of Nevada because we have snow, we have rain, we have desert climate, we have it all.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So what was it like growing up there? Like, did you come into Reno a lot or come down to Las Vegas a lot?
Yeah, you would go to, my aunt and uncle lived in Vegas, so I would spend summers in Vegas because I would spend summers with my aunt and uncle a lot of the time just to get out of Fallon because it was such a small town. There's nothing to do. Like to do something, you had to go to Reno. Yeah. It's grown quite a bit since I graduated and moved away. My friends all still, I'm going there next week for a wedding. My friends all still live there and my very best friend still lives in Fallon. They still live in Fallon. Like my very best friend since 12 years old is raising her 2 teenage daughters in the town we grew up in right now. Like very down home American.
Same with my house. I grew up in Wisconsin. My friend that was just sitting over there. We grew up in just a tiny little town outside of Madison, Wisconsin.
She's supposed to be here tonight. My bestie is from Wisconsin.
Really?
She always brings me beef sausage. It's my favorite thing.
Sausage, cheese.
But the beef sausage from Wisconsin specifically. See, I'm saying it like you know because you keep saying it to me, and I pick up Wisconsin
sausage
from Wisconsin. Now I can't do it on purpose, but I've never had anything like that. Like I'm a poo-pooer. Like when someone's like, "Oh, sausage is better in Wisconsin," I'm like, "Okay, I'm sure." Whatever. Yeah.
No, it's different.
It's different.
And we have like even the cheese is different. Like everything.
I hope your listeners love this riveting sausage conversation.
The charcuterie. They would never call it that though. Like when I first moved to LA, which was 8 years ago, I discovered that charcuterie was a meat plate.
Yeah.
Like, in Wisconsin, nobody would fucking call it that.
They called it a meat plate.
A meat plate. So now when I go out and I'm hungry, like I'm instead of wanting sweets, I always want like bacon or savory meats.
Yeah.
And I'll just go to like places and be like, "Do you guys have any sort of meat plate?" And they look at me like, "What? Like shredded meat on a plate?" And I'm like, "No, just like any sort of meat offerings." Like I don't care what
different shape if they're shaved. Preferably aged.
Yeah, fatty, not fatty. I don't care. Just
I had like real charcuterie for the first time. I'm telling the story in my set because I didn't realize that you could be white trash like anywhere in America. Like and I'm totally white trash and I figured it out like so quickly. And it's been like a couple of years of me being like, "Oh, I'm like trash. I'm a trash person." Like I go to like other early 30 women's homes and they're like cutely like they all look like Pottery Barns. You know, they're like cute. If you walk into my house, like the first thing you see is a holographic Iron Man poster.
Oh, that's like totally me. No, I moved in with my fiance 7 years ago and he decorates our entire place because I have like a boy. Like I like comic books.
Me too.
And Wolverine.
Oh my God.
And the Riddler is my favorite.
We're going to be friends.
Riddler tattoo. Like the Riddler is my favorite.
That's amazing.
I've always dressed up like DC or Marvel characters for Halloween.
That's
like
amazing.
Full on body paint and shit. Like that's what one of the first guys I dated when I lived in Chicago, I was like doing Second City and all this stuff. He lived in this like high rise, and all he had for decoration around the house was, those like half bodies that are on a stand that you could like punch and do workouts on. Like 3 of those, and then like a bunch of weird like Marvel art. And I was like, I probably should marry this person. I was like enamored.
That was me and my husband. Like we're both big dorks. Like we are into like, it's not just comic books for us. We're in like, we play Magic the Gathering and stuff. And
my fiance plays that. That's the one redeeming quality about him, is that he loves magic, and he taught it to me.
It's the best. It's so much fun. It ruins our relationship once a week. We have terrible fights.
Oh my God.
I called him a piece of shit yesterday. I called my husband
I get too,
a piece of shit.
When I played it, I'm like, you killed everything that I just built. Like, how fucking dare you?
Right. I want a divorce.
How dare you?
Yeah, no, it's very, I love it. Yeah, no.
It's so fun.
I just don't ever want to kill my inner child,
I know.
And I'm very passionate about like the things that bring me joy. I feel like people are so focused on looking cool or smart or evolved, that I'm like, I just really want to, life is very short. I have terrible genes. I'm Native American. I'm probably going to die dead of a heart attack in a recliner at 48. Like, I just want to go to the things that bring me joy. That's it.
I mean, that makes people feel, I think, the most fulfilled, and makes you creatively better, Right.
I mean, it's like, I don't need to be the smartest person to feel good about myself. Like, I just want to be like happy and be good to the people around me. Like,
same.
Sometimes people are like very much like, I can tell they're judgmental because they're like, oh, you haven't read that book? And I'm like, man, I gotta be honest, I haven't read a book in like a year.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like, you gotta I just talked to somebody about this, because I was at this like thing, this like networking thing, which I hate that word because it always ends up being just terrible. They had free books on a table, and somebody's like, you should take one of those books. The author is really good. And I was like, no, if it's free, I definitely won't read it.
Yeah.
Like, I just won't, like, I won't respect the book.
No.
If I didn't pay $15 to $25 for it, I'm not going to take the time to actually like plow through it.
I'm trying so hard to get back into reading. I was such an avid reader growing up. Like, I was I've always been very book smart. I'm an idiot though. Like, that's what I always tell people. Like, I have a big vocabulary and I know a lot of things, but I'm an idiot. Like, I loved reading growing up. I loved it.
We are very similar.
Yeah, we are. Yeah. But now it's like, I know it's because I work so much. Like, I'm never not working, that I don't ever take the time to read. But I'm like, okay, I'm going to try and read before bed now and like go back to that instead of putting the TV on.
Yeah.
But it's still like the most I've gotten done since I've like listened to 75% of a Stephen King audiobook. That's like the furthest I've gotten into reading.
Who reads those? Like, can you pick a couple different voices?
Like, so it tells you who reads it. And there's different versions,
audiobooks, but I need to.
Stephen King gets Will Patton a lot to read his stuff. Who I don't know if you're familiar with that actor. He was in everything. Armageddon.
It sounds familiar.
You would know him. He looks like everyone's dad. I don't know. The readers are screaming at the readers. So like do you listen to me?
More approachable Bruce Willis.
Yeah, more like opioid Bruce Willis.
Oh, perfect. Like, okay, I can picture it.
God, I wish I could tell you what he was. Anyways, it's not important. Your listeners are screaming right now at their phones and cars. So you can choose whoever you want. And I just did it because I had to do 13 hours in a car 3 days in a row.
Yeah.
And so I was like, if I have an audiobook, then maybe. And then I realized that doing 13 hours a car 3 days in a row was not long enough to finish that audiobook.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It was so long. Well, I mean, because I couldn't listen to it the whole 13-hour drives. Mm-hmm. Like, I would have to listen to it for like 4 hours. And then, because nobody reads an audiobook in a way that
like fall asleep.
Yes, they're always like, and then she went to the grocery store.
They should have the Snoop Dogg option like they do on Siri or like on the navigation, where they like Snoop, like I would pay $20 extra to have Snoop read me
I would pay $1,000 to have Cardi B read me a book. Just to see if she could, the whole time she'd be like, okay, and then there's a little symbol. It looks like an 8 had sex with a Q. You're like, and is that and Cardi? Are you talking about and?
Asterisk. An asterisk.
Chapter 4.
Oh my God, that would be amazing.
It'd be the best, right?
That should be that should be a platform that somebody should create, like ability for celebrities to make money off of.
Well, they have Cameo. I mean, you could just
true.
be the most expensive cameo ever.
Yeah, 45 hours of you reading me this book.
A Stephen King book of all things.
Oh, shit. I'm on Cameo. I like the last 4 that I've gotten booked on. I forget to do them because I don't know. I don't really care. That's so bad.
Well, I mean, I guess that it's like, what I would feel so strange. Like I would feel like,
yeah,
I'm with you. I get it.
You know, maybe if I was Bruce Willis or maybe if I was somebody like that, I'd be like, okay,
yeah, maybe if you were like Brett Favre. Like,
yeah, I get why people are paying money. But like for me right now, I'm like, okay, just save your like $10.
Is that what you're charging?
DM me on Instagram. I'm like, likelihood of me just sending you something for free is really high. Like,
don't pay me $10. That's hilarious.
What, like somebody in Oklahoma wants me to say happy birthday to what?
Hey,
so like I said, a weird world that we live in.
I honestly, now that you said it was only $10, take the $10, girl. That's
I know.
That's like less than a Taco Bell meal.
I know. I'm valuable.
You are valuable. You're more valuable.
I'm a value meal.
Yeah, you're more valuable than a value meal.
Oh shit. So growing up, did you have like what was your dynamic or what was your family dynamic? Did you have siblings?
No, I'm an only child.
So am I.
My mom had me when she was 19 years old. We lived on and off with my grandparents most of my life because my mom was struggling, you know. She was building her career in the construction. She works in
single mom?
Yeah. Wow. She works in the construction administration industry. So she's like project managing and like running construction jobs for the government now.
Yeah.
But she was like working her way up to try and support us at that time. So grew up in Fallon. It was like the first part of my life, my mom was married to a guy in the Navy. And it was until I was like, they divorced when I was 11. I don't remember a lot of it. He was a pretty terrible dude. Not to bum everyone out. Anytime you say like somebody that was like in your life between 4 and 11, everyone's like, you were molested. And I'm like, no,
and you're like, no, can I just clarify? He wasn't like,
he was terrible, but he wasn't like sneak into your room in the middle of the night. Terrible.
Yeah. You have to clarify.
Yeah. But she, you know, they eventually got divorced and we just ended up staying in Fallon because my grandparents were there. So it kind of worked out. And I grew up this like fat, dorky, you know, I had a unibrow. Like my mom would dress me in those matching Hanes sweatsuits, you know, with the crew neck. Like I looked like.
Oh, I had those too.
I looked like,
oh my God,
just an Armenian landlord. That's what I looked like. Just at 7, you know.
You're right, still.
Is this your car? Like it was I was very dorky. I didn't get it a lot, which is funny because I look back and people were like, well, you were bullied obviously because you knew you were like fat and you're like funny. I'm like, yeah, but I didn't get it. Like I knew I was being bullied, but I would always wake up the next day being like, you know what? Today's the day people are going to like me. And every single day I would go to school. They didn't suck the joy out of me until high school. Like a few boys, I think that's how life kind of works. I was a victim of some of those teen movie, like, let's pretend we're going to go on a date pranks.
No.
Yeah.
Really?
That happened to me a few times. I got back at them later. And so for instance, I was in love with the best break dancer in middle school. I was in love with him. And
you had a best break dancer. Your high school's already 10 times cooler than mine was. Like nobody could dance.
Oh, there was a lot of break dancers. We had like the only activity in our town was the skating rink, was shut down Saturday nights at 8. And if you were 13 or over, you could pay $20 and you could dance all night long. So it was from 8 p.m. to midnight. Like dance every single Saturday.
So it was like straight up from those movies.
Yeah.
Like, take it to the streets.
It was like, I was like, Save the Last Dance.
Yeah.
And I would dance with this guy. And like, this was way before I had a very ugly duckling thing. Like, even though I'm like overweight, I still have a very confident, like I'm very pretty. I understand how gorgeous. I look like. Thank you. I understand how but back then I was just not, there was nothing.
You weren't owning it yet.
It was like my bones were still moving around in my head or something. So he asked me if I'm going to the Valentine's Day dance. And I'm like, yes, I'm going to the Valentine's Day dance, Joey, like thinking this is our moment. And I put on my best Walmart floral skirt and some tall clogs, pin my hair up with some butterfly clips and put on my Lip Smackers vanilla frosting lip gloss.
Oh my God. We're the same. Are you 34?
I'm 31.
You're 31?
Yeah,
okay,
same generation.
Same generation. You were straight up 90s right there.
Then
early 90s.
Oh yeah, very early 90s. And he proceeds to like dance with me and then kiss me at the dance. And then I see him go over to his friends and them all laughing and like doing the whole like, oh, I can't believe you did it, man, giving him money. And I was like, and I was very smart. So I was like, I knew exactly what happened. And my life spiraled from there into an eating disorder, which is the bummer part of the story.
Oh my gosh.
But the happy part of the story is that after I became older, I became a whore. And so I used that to get revenge.
Did you fuck all of his best friends?
No, I saw him at a party and I looked a lot different. And he was like, I had my moment of him being like, whoa, you're so hot.
Yeah.
I fucked up. And I was like, yeah, you did. And then like we made out and then I went home with his friend, but I didn't do anything with his friend because like I can't fuck someone out of revenge. Like I literally
right. You have to actually like
like that. Like I joke about being a whore, but it's just because I like a lot lot of people and I'm bisexual.
Same.
So it's like there's a lot more numbers.
I totally get that. Yeah. I totally get it.
I'm not a whore with anyone. So I was like in bed with his friend at his friend's house. And we were making out and his friends were like, come on, give me a blowjob. I'm like, we're only making out. And he was like, what? And I'm like, yeah, I just,
this was a show. This is a show.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So how did that cause talk about that moment in your life, because I feel like that's something I was just talking to a friend about that today. I have a lot of girlfriends in like entertainment. I shouldn't even say just Los Angeles, but have very weird relationships with food, or with exercise or with body image.
Yeah.
And it's like something that this is why I love my 30s so much. I have different friends I have friends that are younger, friends that are older. And like, as people enter their 30s, there's that fear of becoming older.
Mortality, man.
Yeah. And for me, the 30s so far, I mean, I'll be 35 in February, have been the best. Like I'm so just cool with who I am. Like I don't have jealousy
I agree 100%. Like it's very easy for me to be joyful for other people. It's very easy. I still, I fucked myself up with that eating disorder. So
yeah.
I don't think I'll ever have a good relationship with my body image or the way I look. But the weird thing is I'm more confident than I've ever been. I like my body. It's very obvious. If you follow me on Instagram, I'm not afraid to post a thirst trap.
That's how it should be.
But I'm very happy with the way I look. But even still, there's days that it comes back, in full force. But I worked really hard many, many years because I knew deep down that I was never going to be quote unquote cured. Right. So I had to learn how to live with whatever that demon that was living in my head that was telling me, I have control issues already. So eating disorder was like right in my wheelhouse, but I don't have
the control thing.
Right. But I don't have the willpower for anorexia. So like bulimia was like right down my wheelhouse. I went balls to the wall from 13 to 18. I was off and on a few years. And then I got really skinny my senior year of high school because I finally got my diet under control. And after it, I had stopped binging and purging for like a year and a half before that.
What kind of toll did that take on your body?
It was bad. It was my hair was thin. I looked gross all the time. I didn't do it frequently enough to get, thankfully, any bad fingernail things, or because I would take it would be like I'd be on for a year of binging and purging. I'd be off for a couple of years. I'd be on for a year. I'd be off for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And then the last time I was on, it was because I lost weight the right way. And then when I started to find myself gaining weight, the anxiety of the gaining weight kicked it back in.
Yeah.
And when I first started stand-up, it got kicked back in again. So I've been in treatment since, and not treatment. It's not like I went away, but I go to therapy and I talk to people about it because I just know that I have to live with this. Like this is
it's a demon.
My brain. I do it no matter what. I talk about my eating disorder on stage because I'm also the binging stays. The purging goes, but the binging stays.
Yeah.
So you have to be all right with the fact that I'm going to gain weight. I'm going to look different. And it's about changing my relationship with food in a way that this is so adult. I don't even know how to handle it. And I'm 31, but I'm at a place where I like myself enough to be all right, whatever. That's a part of who you are. And we're just going to fucking live with it.
Yeah. So when do you feel like you got into a place where that was getting under control, or do you still feel like you don't?
I feel like around the time I met my husband, about a year before there, I really came to terms with my body.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really me being honest with myself and being there's not a woman in my family who doesn't look like me.
Right.
I'm
genetic wise.
Right. I'm not saying genetically, we all have bad eating habits, but we also genetically are all bigger women.
Mm-hmm.
And I just kind of became really comfortable with myself, and I really started to like myself. And it's when I started to like wear bikinis. I was like, I want to wear a bikini. I don't care that this isn't like what other people want to see in a bikini. I don't want to have fucking dumb tan lines.
Yeah.
And so I just started to do things that I was afraid of doing because of my weight. And before I knew it, it just made me realize that
it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It really doesn't matter.
It's so interesting how much weight we put on just anything, just how people perceive us. Like, are you a big Enneagram person?
No, what's that?
So I've never gotten into the zodiac, which is all like the stars and when you're born and stuff. The Enneagram is the antithesis of that in a lot of ways. It's like, it's a personality test, but it's a really deep one. It's like a novel that you read and you answer through a bunch of questions that kind of pairs you up with the right type of personality type that you are.
Oh,
and
wow.
It delves like almost like a Bible into like what you are, what your weaknesses are, what type of people you gravitate towards, and it's spot the fuck on. It's so cool.
How do you do it?
I just ordered it as a book on Amazon like years ago and took it with a bunch of friends, and it like all of us paired up perfectly. And we were like, this is hilarious.
I'm going to try and do that.
No, it's really cool. I mean, you actually learn a lot about.
Not to be a bummer, by the way, and come on your podcast and be like, I have an eating disorder and I wasn't molested.
Everybody's talked about and wasn't.
I don't even like, I just want to make sure I'm not like fucking up the tone.
No. Everybody talks about everything. Like
cool.
I've had all sorts, like everybody's story is just fascinating. That's what
I'm the same way. I just am very interested in how people became the people they are.
Exactly. And how that parlayed into like this line of work and like why, what makes people tick. And I think it's cool when people have fucked up pasts. Like that's what this whole thing is about. It's like,
I think getting She's All Thatted when I was in 7th grade, like made me a comic. Like,
yeah, that's pretty fucking wretched.
Well, I spent the next, the year after that, like, I just wanted to make people laugh. Like, I don't remember anything specific happening. I had started watching a lot of stand-up around that time, but I downloaded a bunch of pickup lines.
You were young then, too.
I was young. I was 13, 14. Yeah. I was home alone a lot of Friday and Saturday nights, and we lived 7 miles outside of the city limits. So there was not really like I could go to a friend's house very easily if my mom was working. So I oftentimes was just home alone with the television, and I would watch stand-up specials, and I would order stand-up CDs from Yahoo Shopping.
Shit. Oh my God.
And
that's like
I remember downloading, I found this because this used to be like back in the internet days where it was like not as nice as it is now.
Yeah.
It wasn't like the websites were very slow, and like to watch a video, you would like load it up and be like, okay, I'm going to come back after the popcorn's done.
I remember the whole dial-up tone of an AOL.
And I was like in the meme culture back then. Like I was on like eBaum's World and joecartoon.com. And like, I was really into all these vulgar like cartoons and weird internet things. And somehow in the chat room, there was a 1,000 best pickup lines file was shared, and I downloaded it and I memorized like half of it. And so I would go to school and I would think it was so funny, and it would blow like these junior high boys' mind, because I'd be like, I bet I know more pickup lines than you. And they'd be like,
remember any of your favorite ones?
Yeah, I remember so many. So
my God, yes.
I heard that you needed help with math. You're in luck. I'm a math tutor. So later we can go back to your place, add the clothes. Subtract the clothes, add the bed, divide the legs, and multiply.
Oh, yes. I've heard that one before.
Are those space pants? Because this ass is out of this world. That's a classic. Oh, do you have a quarter? I told my mom I'd call her when I finally fell in love.
Shit.
It's
like breaking hearts left and right.
I don't know. I had sensory disorder, that where little kids masturbate in inappropriate times. So I'm a disgusting human.
Have you seen the show? It's on Hulu. Pen 15?
No, I want to watch it. Yeah.
It's so good.
I've been hearing good things because I'm like, and that's what I feel about Big Mouth, like the cartoon on Netflix. I'm like, we were very people think that kids are over sexualized now. Like that's all we talked about at the lunch table.
Well, and we didn't have there is kind of an interesting balance of the two. Like now kids have so much at their disposal.
Well, they have porn too, which is awful.
Yeah. There's so much available.
Yeah.
But like, also, when anything is available, people become a little bit less interested in it. Like
it's very boring to them.
Like, yeah. Where for us, like the internet was just starting to come around.
Do you remember watching your friend's dad's porn?
Oh,
like
my
the
God.
VHS? Like
Yes.
your friend would be like, you want to see something weird? And you guys would like sneak into his room.
Even just
and
songs. Like we one of my friends in high school, her dad was a DJ, and we would repeatedly put on the song "We Didn't Start the Fire," and we would sing the choruses about birth control and sex and all that. Because like we were like, oh, we're so badass. We're singing about this stuff. You know, like the kind of stuff we would search for on the internet was pretty gratuitous. And then it would have to load for like 20 minutes. If your parents were coming up, you're like, shit. You're like trying to.
Yeah, man. I see. And I never went to the internet for porn until I was an adult. Like I was still like, I had like Playboys and stuff. So,
yeah,
you know, I was a little queer bisexual girl.
Did you know you were bisexual young?
I don't know. I was talking to somebody about it recently. Like I didn't think about it. Like everyone turned me on and I just didn't really
categorize it.
Yeah. I mean, I guess technically that would be pansexual because it sounds like people being like, I don't see color. I don't see gender.
Yeah.
But
I mean, yeah.
I feel like I just don't. It's never really mattered that much to me. And so I found the women in Playboy just as sexy as I found, you know, I had pictures of naked dudes too.
Mm-hmm.
And I found both of those equally as sexy for equal reasons. And
so funny. Yeah. I
which I knew was different because I would other young girls. And when you're young, you show each other your porn. So I'd be like,
yeah,
you want to see my secret? I'd like, and they'd be like, why do you have that? And I'd be like, never mind. Guess that's just me.
I had that kind of shit in my locker because I was next to we were alphabetical. I was next to one of my good guy friends. And then I got clever about it and I put a statue of the David in my locker.
Nice.
A picture of the David because he was naked and I could look at nuts every day, but they were technically art. So anytime like somebody would come by and be like, oh, I don't know about that, I'd be like, it's the David.
It's art, you Philistine.
You piece of shit.
You plebeian.
I was very clever about my disgustingness.
Yeah, I was not. I was just a horny teenager. Like I think
that's everybody.
And that's the thing is like, that's why I like try and like, you know, I'm working through a bit about a part of my life right now where I just had those flashback memories where you're like, your brain just now red flags it as, hey, that was weird.
Yeah. Yes.
My sex ed teacher, both in middle school and high school, was a virgin.
Huh.
An open virgin. She would talk about it openly. And it was a very, Northern Nevada is very religious. So it's a very like religious community and a very conservative school district. And it's not that I'm like saying like, oh, I need a whore to teach me about sex. I'm just saying like, I feel like a virgin should be like, maybe not this year. Maybe you can just teach health. We'll get somebody.
You can do the pregame.
Yeah.
You can be like the pre-cum to the entire program.
Yeah.
But
then we'll get someone who's, you know.
Can't tell people not to fuck if you've never fucked.
Right. You got to know the curriculum is my point. Like you got to have at least cracked the book.
You got to pander to the audience.
So I don't know. And I think I was just doomed to be this over-sexualized person because I had this sensory disorder where I started masturbating super young, like first grade I'd started.
Whoa,
yeah, my mom caught me in first grade and I couldn't even explain.
It wasn't sexual though yet necessarily, right? I mean, it just felt good.
It just felt great. Yeah. I mean, it was sexual because I would put in Flipper's Elijah Wood and I would always do it during the part when Elijah Wood was in the water.
You were masturbating to the right demographic of age. Like it would be weird if you were
Wood.
Like,
as a 31-year-old woman, can I tell you now that I look at him, I'm like, I can't believe I came to him.
I know.
Ever.
God, his eyes are just so big.
He just
like an ocelot.
He looks like
something.
Alvin from Alvin and the Chipmunks got turned into a human. Like that's what he looks like to me.
He's nice.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
That's whatever I say whenever I'm talking shit about somebody. I'm sure they're nice.
I'm a large woman in all dimensions. I'm 5'10" and I'm built like a linebacker. And small men like that just make me feel not at all sexy.
Yeah, right? Like you just
no.
I never liked hooking up with guys that I felt like more muscular than.
No, I can't imagine if you were more muscular than a
you'd
guy.
Be surprised how many emo little boys have come across my path. I don't know what the fuck.
Look, you know what?
The leopard print?
See,
what kind of vibe I'm giving?
That's a thing that we share though, because scrawny guys like that also like fat chicks. So they go in both ways.
Yeah, it's so strange.
I think it's probably feels good on their joints to finally have some cushion between them and the earth.
It's like a massage.
Yeah. Poor guys.
Oh man. So how did you end up? So you started watching comedy pretty fucking young because I didn't start watching. I was a Lucille Ball fan, and Howard Stern. Howard Stern was like a show that I kind of got off.
I just was such a bro I'm still kind of that's what I tell people. Like I'm just like a bro. Like I was like all about Dan Cook. Like I knew all of it. I was like quote his jokes to people. And then when they didn't know his jokes, I would say dumb things like, you don't know the Dane.
Shit. Oh, the Dane.
so embarrassing.
My God.
And then I discovered Stephen Lynch, the musical comedian, and I was super into him for a long time.
One of my best friends, Mark Tyke, used to travel with him. He was like his partner.
He's very brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
He's very brilliant and super funny, and like one of my favorite things I've ever seen live. And then it parlayed into me seeing, my first few female stand-ups. I saw, Kathleen Madigan and Paula Poundstone, and I saw Sarah Silverman, and then I started seeing like more and more stand-up, and but here's the thing is, and I've said this a million times and on other podcasts, is that I didn't think stand-up was something you could decide to do. I legitimately thought you had to get like a Hogwarts letter. I thought that somebody would be like, hey kid, that was real funny the way you talked to that Jack in the Box employee.
Here you go. Here's your stand-up.
Right. Here's the key to the stand-up comedy school or whatever.
Right?
That's what I thought.
Nobody tells you that. It's like a thing you can just go figure out on your own.
And because I was smart, like everyone was always assuming I was going to go into science because I was really into science, and I was on this path to go to, and then I started. Here's my thing is I really like talking shit. Like that's the part of comedy that I like the most is when comics are hanging out after the show and there's a couple comics in the circle that everyone can kind of shit on, and then we all get to shit on them, or we get to shit on ourselves, or we're shitting on each other, or we're shit. Like I just like I like shit talking. Like it's what I like about sports. It's why I like.
Well, that's what's fun about this space too. Is like you can shit talk amongst other comedians, and it's like fun to bust each other's balls.
Right.
So it's like it doesn't feel like. It doesn't feel like you're about to like ruin somebody's day.
No, because you're doing it. It's how we show. We're all broken, and we don't want to show genuine, vulnerable affection. So we like being around comics because we get to be affectionate, and because when we're affectionate, we're gonna shit on you. Like that's me being affectionate. Yeah. And that was me at parties. And eventually, one day, my best friend was like, it got to the point where like when I was still smoking, there would be a part of the night when everyone would be hanging out at my best friend's house, and everyone would be having drinks or playing games or whatever. I'd go sit on the porch and start smoking cigarettes, and everyone would kind of filter out there to smoke, and they'd all end up surrounding me, and I'd end up telling stories. I'd be like, tell us a story, Jozalyn.
That's what I used to do.
And I would just tell stories in backyards and kitchens, and eventually.
Literally what I used to do.
And did you not even realize you were doing stand-up the whole time?
No.
Me either.
No, I started writing my thought books. So that's why I titled this podcast and this show here in Las Vegas the same title. My thought books are called Future Role Model. I started them when I was 14.
I love that.
So I was like, one day I'll be a role model, maybe.
I love it.
So I've been journaling and writing funny stories and quotes and stuff down since I was 14. And I used to get invited to parties and like perform them with the older kids.
Oh, I wouldn't do that. I was like with my peers, and I was just like talking shit and telling them about whoever I went on a date with.
Oh yeah,
but
it was a whole like spectrum of stuff. I ended up getting in with the older kids because of that, and wasn't until way later that I was like, oh shit, that's like
I'm doing stand-up
stuff. I didn't realize.
And that was my version of stand-up is very similar to what I was doing then, where it's just like me in a room being like, can you guys fucking believe I did this shit? Like that's kind of the vibe. That's like that's what I like to talk about is like, can you believe this shit? Can you believe that person said, can you believe like that's my and that's how it started. My best friend like in the middle of a story one time was like, oh my God, you should do stand-up. And my brain just went,
oh fuck,
what the fuck have I been doing this whole time?
Yeah.
I was in a shit relationship, told my boyfriend, and he was like, why, you're not funny? I was like, oh. And then like 5 years later I did stand up, but still.
How long were you in that shit relationship for?
2 years.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I had a shit one for about 2 years too.
I did a bunch of like shitty relationships in my early 20s because I really did have that sickness where I felt like very unworthy of anything unless I had a man in my life or a girl. And consequently dated a lot of people that I just shouldn't have dated. Didn't need to date.
Yeah. Just to date just because you could. When did you actually start doing stand-up? How old were you?
7 years ago. So what was that, 24, 23?
Yeah.
I was 23 when I started. Nice. And then I turned 24 2 months
here
after.
Here in Las Vegas?
Yeah, I started in Vegas and I've been doing it here ever since.
So how did you come into Vegas from where you grew up?
So my aunt and uncle moved here, started a business when I was in adolescent. And after my grandparents retired, they moved out here. And then consequently, when I got to that abusive relationship, this is actually parlays into how I started, because I started stand up 2 months after I moved to Vegas. Because I was moved to New Jersey after I got out of that abusive relationship, binge partied and drank for a year in New Jersey. Did a lot of crazy shit then. That is one time I did shave my head for real. I shaved my head.
Shave?
Yeah, I shaved my head at the Jersey because I went and saw Scream 4. Remember Hayden Panettiere had that cute pixie cut?
Oh my God.
We got hammered in the movie. Then we go back to the Jersey Shore house and I'm like hammered and I'm like, God, Hayden Panettiere's hair is so cute. And my friend Lucy was like, you would look really cute with that haircut. And I was like, you're right, I would. then we go to Great Clips and the lady butchers my hair. And so in a manic rage, I went back to the house and put like a guard on the clippers and just went to my head.
Oh my God.
So I had a long manic year in New Jersey. And then I was like, you know what? I think I should go back to Fallon. I went back to my hometown for a year. Started sleeping with a kid I used to babysit. So
fuck.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
So my life was going steadily up.
You win. Wow.
Number one, I want to clarify that we're 4 years apart. So I was 23 and he was 18.
Yeah.
19 at the time.
Well, we also have to remember that when we used to babysit in cities like we grew up in, we were 11.
We were like 10 and we were babysitting 8-year-olds.
Fuck?
Yeah.
I was raising babies.
Yeah, I was 12.
11.
I was 12 when I started babysitting him and he was 8. And you know what's wild is that I fucked him even though I knew he wet the bed until he was 12. That tells you how much self-worth I have. Listen, it's not my fault. He became like an amateur MMA fighter and he got super hot and he got like super tall and like I just had to
let it slide.
And you know what? He chased me for 3 months, so I was fulfilling some fantasy of his.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
It was mutual. And then
he probably had his little baby masturbations to you.
Oh, and then I fell madly in love with him and had a manically psychotic relationship with him for 6 months.
Way.
Oh yeah, it was really bad. It was really we were never like mean to each other or violent to each other. We were just both always.
You were too young.
I was young and he was too young. And anytime he would like talk to another girl at a party, I would make it my business to ruin her life. And anytime I would talk to another guy, he would make it his business to like make me feel guilty about it. Like it was just this weird, like we're not together, but we are, there was like too much family history too, because our parents are like best friends. So it was just very strange.
Mm-hmm.
So then I'm like, I got to get the fuck out of this town because I'm regressing in life. I am turning into the worst version of myself. And so my mom suggests, well, why don't you go down to Vegas? Everyone's in Vegas, at least you'll have family. So my aunt and uncle offered me a place to stay. So I moved out here, online dated. First person I met was Bobby Wayne Stotts.
No way.
Bobby Wayne Stotts took me on a date on New Year's Eve. And they were doing a stand-up show. And at the end, they asked if anybody wanted to tell jokes. And I went up and I told a street joke. And it was fun. There was only like 3 people in the room. And then I started hanging out with comics. And Bobby and I stopped seeing each other. And I started dating this other comic. And then while dating
Bobby is one of the first comedians I met here. And he just did my show like a couple weeks ago.
Bobby's best. I love him.
He's great.
I love making fun of him, by the way, because he dumped me on the way to meeting where he was supposed to meet me, like via text.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. Like he texts me and he goes, I hope you're not at the bunkhouse. Cause I was there setting up for the show that we were going to hang out at that night. Cause our mutual friend was renting it and I was helping her set up. And he goes, I hope you're not at the show. And I'm like, I am. Why? And he goes, cause I'm bringing a date. And I was like, cool, message received.
Shit.
And then, so I like to make fun of him for that, but yeah. And then I was hanging out with comics. I let it slip that I always wanted to do comedy and how I thought it was weird that I ended up being friends with comics when I moved to Vegas. And one night, the one of them that ran an open mic hit me up and she was like, do you want to go up tonight? And I looked at my boyfriend at the time and I was like, do you think I should do it? And he had seen my notebook that I had, I always had a notebook that I would scribble my thoughts in.
Yeah.
And he said, I think like you should, there's no reason you shouldn't. And then I did, and I haven't stopped. Like, do
you remember how that first set you did went?
It's on YouTube.
Is it really?
Yeah, you can YouTube Jozalyn Sharp first time stand up. It's on my old YouTube account that I cannot find the password to. I've also reported it to try and get it to come down. It won't come down. So I'm just like,
I have
whatever.
An old one that's
out
up there from like 7 years ago too, that somebody else filmed. And I'm like, whatever, it's out there.
The very first time I did stand up is on stage.
That's crazy.
Luckily, it's not awful. It's not terrible because I had been hanging out with these people for a long time.
Right. So you had a little bit of cadence.
Yeah.
And you'd been writing.
And also they loved me. Everyone in that room wanted me to do well.
Yeah.
I had a joke about how, I know it's typical for women to say, I said, I love a man in uniform. I know that's typical for women to say, but I'm talking more about specifically orange ones because I can't really come unless I think my life's in danger. That was a joke. Then I had this whole act out joke where I was talking about what it's like to hold your shit. And it's like it was all about like when you first start dating. And because I just started dating this guy and I was like, well, I haven't shit. And I've been staying at his house for a week. Like,
I mean, it's toxic at
right.
this point.
Right.
Like, that's a toxic relationship.
Right. And in my joke, I was talking about how you will do anything in your power to not let the person you're with hear you shit when that first time. And so that was a whole, I don't remember the rest. I've not watched it since then, but.
Oh my God. It's so funny to think back on, because my first few sets that I did, I had great sets, but I was telling I've always been a storyteller, but I didn't think that at first. I really wanted to emulate like a Mitch Hedberg.
You wanted to be a one-liner.
Yeah, I was really trying to like take these massive stories I had and like bump them down to like a sentence, which is just not sustainable when that's not how your brain works.
I really wanted to be Kinnison, which I eventually let out of the box, and it was real bad for a while.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's tough because you don't really know what to go off of except for somebody that you already really like.
Right.
And so it's not that you're supposed to imitate anybody necessarily, but you have to for a little while until you get your sea legs and you're like, oh, okay.
And I don't know if it was like this for you, where I felt like the minute I got even a little bit good, everyone was like, oh, you have to do every show. Like, I was all of a sudden doing everything.
Yeah. And Chicago is where I started in Chicago. And yeah, I mean, by the time within a month, I had like 5-6 shows a week easily.
Right.
And the only way I was making money was bartending. So it was really tough because I was like, either I do these shows. I mean, shows would pay like, it's not like LA, like shows would pay like $15-20 when you were new.
Right.
Like I moved to LA thinking I could make a living there. And that was 8 years ago. And my first couple months was like, oh fuck. Yeah. Nobody gets paid here. Oh no.
I'm always grateful when a spot in LA pays. It's
rare.
It's very rare.
It's rare, and if it does, it's not a ton. Like you can't you can't live in LA off of that's why everybody's like clawing for entertainment spots or writing or acting gigs, because that's the only way people can survive. But it's nice to know that there's like still scenes out there where you can like actually jump in and make. I
mean, Vegas is like that a lot. I mean, you start getting paid very early and you can make good $25, $50 to $75 to $100 chunks a night, depending on the show.
Which isn't bad.
No. And especially because
for a comp,
there's like this economy of a show that I've been thinking about a lot, because I'm like, comedy isn't fair. There's a lot of things in comedy that aren't fair, including, the way we think about value. Like for comics, the value of what you need to pay us to do a show is directly proportional to how great your show is consistently.
Yeah.
Like if you have a packed house of 1,000 people every single week and you only pay us $10 to nothing.
Yeah.
We're probably going to do the show because it's a great crowd of 1,000 people.
Right.
For the time. That's the economy of it, right?
Yeah.
But if you're expecting me to bring the people and like all these other things, like that's the thing that I've been thinking about a lot. And Vegas kind of gets that. Vegas knows that if I want to pay you less, I have to make sure you have an audience.
Yeah.
And if I pay you more, then just know that we expect a little bit of promotion out of you, which I think is cool.
Which is nice because Vegas is such like, there's so much going on here.
Right.
I mean, you think LA is great. Like there's so much going on here.
Well, and that's the thing. Everyone's clamoring to like give the tourists something to do. So there's 1,000 shows. There's like right now at this moment, there's 8 comedy shows going on right now. 8 professional comedy shows going on the Strip.
Yeah.
That's not counting the ones I don't even know about, which there's tons of them that I don't even know about.
Yeah, exactly. And on the Strip too. I mean, like we're removed a little bit. So it's kind of more like a locals audience that we're trying to go for.
Yeah.
But on the Strip itself, like, I mean, there's just any night that I've even stayed on the Strip, I don't even buy tickets to something because I'm like, who knows what we're going to just walk into and we'll just end up finding something fun to do last minute.
Right.
Like you don't really even know what you're going to do until like 20 minutes before you do it, unless you're like coming from Iowa and you buy tickets online. But
it's a different city, man. That's why I think it's cool though, because you have to like really grind to get laughs here.
Yeah.
Because they're just, it's kind of like LA is a different reason you have to grind to get laughs, but the crowds here just, I feel like a lot of crowds in LA are kind of like, you have to impress them. Like
Yeah.
And Vegas is kind of the same way, but for different reasons. Like for different reasons being that they're like all of Midwest family, or they're from China, or they're, sometimes you have 3 or 4 people in the audience that have an interpreter with them.
Yeah, exactly.
You're like,
and then other people that have been day drinking all day. And
yes.
the
tried marijuana for the first time.
Right. The mix that's happening out there is so large and vast. This was when I was first about to move from Chicago to LA, I was starting to hit the New York scene. Every other month I'd go to New York or LA because one of my friends had a traveler's pass with American Airlines. He was a flight attendant.
Yes.
And so I was just $50 jump seats all over the place. And it was cool because I started to get this rapport with the 3 different cities and appreciate that when I was working through something that I would have to kind of take them to all of them to see how it would fly elsewhere.
Yeah.
So this is kind of how I break it down. And now I'm trying to figure out what the 4th would be for a Vegas. But in LA, everybody cares who you are. They don't want to be impressed by you unless you have this.
Unless they know you.
Credits.
Yep.
New York, nobody gives a fuck who you are. So they're not going to be impressed by you at all unless you just make them laugh. And then Chicago, people kind of teeter between the two. All they want to know is that at the end of the day, could they get beers with you after the show? Are you cool? And so the trifecta of the 3 cities really helps you figure out how to navigate
Vegas.
your
I feel
material.
is a mix of all 3. I feel like Vegas is where people half the crowd is just at the show because it was the cheapest thing to do and just entertain me, fucker. I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm here for 90 minutes. And then, half a third. And then the other third of the crowd is there and they're like, well, I paid. So who are you? Kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then the other third is those people that are just be cool, man. We're just here to have fun.
Exactly.
But then there's also another section of them, like I said, that are from a whole different country and don't even speak English.
Yeah. And you're why did you come to comedy of all things?
Yeah.
I performed in Europe for the first time in this spring of this year. And we had a show in Paris closing our tour out. And the show before ours was all in French. And the interesting thing that somebody was telling me before the show is they were like, oh, if you do hear or any French, or if you hear anything in English that you recognize, a lot of French comedians still do some American people's jokes because French comedy is so new.
Well, because that big wasn't that
been
the
around
thing
for 10 years.
Well, wasn't that the thing? Is the big guy in France? He stole a bunch of American material and then
and repurposed it. And I didn't realize that was a thing, but they were also if you do recognize anything that they're saying, there's a lot of hacky material because the hacky phase hasn't.
It's the 70s.
We had the hacky phase back then. So we've already worked through that. The US's stand-up life is much deeper.
Right.
But it was something, there was something cool to see this. The headliner guy was very physical, and I can't speak French. I don't know what he was saying, but I could tell what he was talking about by just his act out.
His physicality. Yeah.
And I was like, oh, it's really interesting that the people were dying. And I was like, okay, here, I guess they like this physical stuff. So
right.
Even when I went on stage, I'm not usually very physical, but I added a little bit more of that. And we had a kick ass show for a bunch of people that barely speak English.
Yeah.
But it's just really interesting, what different cultures even take in or what they think is funny.
I used to. So, Sam Tripoli?
Yeah.
So Sam brought his naughty show here to Vegas for a few months and I helped him with production and producing on it and stuff. And we ran it out of Planet Hollywood out of the Sin City Theater.
Mm-hmm.
And
how was that? How did it go?
I was the house MC. It was awful. It was a midnight show. That was a difficult organization to work with promotion wise. And Sam and I really struggled, but we both put a lot of work into it and we had fun some of the nights, but no show was easy. And it was every Friday and Saturday. And there was a lot of issues with the way they marketed it and what we would draw. And half the time, literally we would have 10 people and 6 of them would be non-English speakers. And I was doing weird bits. This was a weird alti late night burlesque show. So I'm doing weird bits where I'm drinking beer out of fleshlights in between comics.
Oh my
God. They have no fucking idea what's going on. I'm just shaking a fleshlight into my face and beer is coming out. And they're just what the fuck? And then I hired my friend who is a balloon artist to perform, and he makes giant erotic balloons that shoot fake jizz.
Oh,
and
that's amazing.
Does bits with those. And
I'm gonna hire him for some kids parties.
Oh, I can give you his number. He's amazing. But it just was a very strange, it's a very strange experience when you have to deal with different cultures and the way that you're I was trying to do like this very like layered metaphor, or I was just trying to do this super silly thing.
Mhm.
And then you're like, oh, that doesn't read to people where fleshlights aren't like part of their zeitgeist.
Culture. Yeah. like yep.
They're just like there's a vagina in a
communist China.
flashlight.
They're just not those. There's
No.
not those. It's done very differently. So, I mean, what has been one of your favorite pieces of working in this scene, and what is one of your least favorite pieces?
Oof. I guess my favorite thing about working in Las Vegas, and this is going to sound like somebody who just like loves their scene a lot, but I don't think you can survive here unless you work really hard. You have to work really hard. That's
like Los Angeles too. And it makes people appreciate each other, you know, no matter what.
Yeah.
If people think I'm funny or not funny, I at least know that they know that I work hard. And I'm like, I at least at the end of the day want people to have that. That's
really all I care about is like, and because I truly, comics, we forget this in the conversation. Like people will be like, I just don't think he's funny. And I'm like, that's not for you to decide.
Right.
Honestly, I just don't have that conversation very often. You know, there are some people, don't get me wrong, who are not funny.
Yeah.
They're categorically not funny.
Sure. Yeah.
But if somebody's trying and they're getting laughs, there's often comics who want to be like, I just don't understand. They're not funny or whatever. And it's like, it's subjective, you guys. Like there's people watch me do stand up and think it's absolute trash. They think it's the worst thing that's ever happened to stand up comedy. And that's just the way that having any kind of art works. And I guess my least favorite thing about working in Las Vegas is that we're such a small scene that it's hard not to, I don't know why I said hard in Hebrew there just now. It's hard. It's hard not to like focus on what other people think.
Yeah.
And I'm very sensitive and I forget sometimes. And this sounds like people say things like, well, you're doing something wrong if people aren't talking shit. Like, or, you know, haters come when you get more successful. And like,
yeah.
I think that the problem for me is just that there is a lot of there's not a lot of distance between people talking shit and the person getting talked shit about. So everything gets back to the person.
Yeah.
So I've heard everything that people say and think about me.
Right.
And it's hurtful and it sucks. But at the end of the day, I like Vegas for the reason that I have to work. I have to work for it. And I don't ever want to be in a scene where I don't have to. Every laugh is hard. Every laugh, I've earned it. It's
every stage time.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's just like, even just before you get to the laughing point, that work is so hard. And that's what I think everybody should just be kinder to each other about in the scene. I think the scene is getting better. I say the scene as just the collective stand-up
I agree.
scene.
I mean, the thing is the things I say about Vegas are true about most scenes of that size.
Yeah. But you should know this, like when I was starting to come do this show, like I didn't know a lot of the Vegas. I knew a handful of people like Charlie, Bobby, Ty, you know, John, like, you know, just
people you had performed with maybe in LA or.
Yeah, exactly. Or done their shows times I've been out here. Everybody highly recommended you.
That's very nice to hear. Thank you for telling me that.
Yeah. No, it's good to hear that because that means your peers like behind your back are saying great things.
Yeah. And that's what I try to remember a lot of the time is often I forget to think about the source.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's true. And like, you know, I mean, we can't.
And I'm sure you get the same thing because I feel like, and it's going to sound like one of those things where I'm like a pretty woman complaining about being a woman. Like, I feel like pretty women have it really hard in comedy. I feel like if you're attractive at all, like,
people like anything that you do is like a detriment to your career.
I can't enjoy my sexuality online to a certain. I have it better than you because I'm heavy. If I enjoy my sexuality online, people applaud me and they say things like, "Oh yes, queen, you're killing it." But if you were like to post like provocative pictures on your Twitter or Instagram, people would look judgmentally on that, right?
Yeah.
They think that you're just trying to get. You're like, aren't you supposed to be a comedian? Aren't you supposed to be? And it's like, can I be a multifaceted person who also enjoys my sex? Like, just because I'm a woman, like
so long ago, I did like spreads for Men's Health, and after that, I was like, you know, I don't care if people like this or not. Like,
good for you.
What I fucking do.
I'm just coming around to that point where I'm like, I do care what people. I don't ever want to say I don't care what people think because I only think sociopaths.
We're human. Yeah.
But I'm getting to a point now where I'm much more accepting of the fact that not everyone's going to be a 5-star review, and that's okay.
Fine. Yep, it's totally fine. Any closing remarks, or where can people find you online? Your Twitter, socials?
You can go to JozalynSharp.com, JOZALYN Sharp, like a sharp knife.com. That's how you spell my name. I'm at Jozalyn Sharp on everything. I'm at Wizard of Jaws on TikTok and Twitch.
Nice.
You can listen to my podcast, Metal Sucks, Rise to Offend. I'm a shameless self-promoter. So if there's something that's out there, I'm probably on it. And you can find it at jozelynsharp.com.
Awesome. And you can find me at MPH Comedy, mphcomedy.com for all my tours, /TIX for any tour dates or this Vegas show if you want to come to that in the future. Every week, really good lineups until December 16th, until we have a holiday hiatus. And then hopefully can return.
Thank you so much for having me on your podcast.
Yes,
I had a good time getting to know somebody we have a lot in common.
I know. I love that. I mean, it's just, I don't know. We have a lot more in common. Whenever I have a one-on-one with somebody, that's why I enjoy this podcast immensely, because it's my time to get to know somebody in the scene in a way that I didn't know them before.
Right.
And in a one-on-one situation, oddly enough, we all have quite a bit in common with any person that we're talking to.
True.
And
well, you're a great host. I felt very comfortable, obviously, because I was like, oh, and I have an eating disorder. That's not, by the way, that's not in my top 5 things I bring up about myself. Sure, so you just made me feel very comfortable. Always, so great.
Since I was a young kid, people would always just
confess to you.
Yes. Even just on the bus and shit. I had something about me. People would just come up and just tell me everything about themselves. So whatever. I mean, let's use that to share with people. And
you should work for the CIA or something.
Yeah, I really, my name's Natasha. I already fucking do. Without my birth certificate is probably stamped in CIA blood. But yeah, I think about that all the time. In college, everyone called me Natasha the Russian spy. And I was like, maybe you're onto something.
Hilarious.
Maybe that's where Hi, Jessica. All right. We gotta wrap this up. Any closing remarks?
I guess what I'll say is that if I said anything that was offensive or wrong, I don't care.
And that's fucking perfect in this cancel culture that we could have a whole nother hour podcast about. Oh my God, I love you. Okay. Bye.